All right, again, these first 8 are reviews. So I'm going to start with number 1. If I have 8 to the 1/3 power, that means the cube root of 8. And I love what I see with your powers charts there. So the cube root of 8 is 2. Number 2, 81 to the 1/2 means the square root of 81, which is 9. 25 to the 3/2 is the square root of 25 being cubed. So that's the square root of 25 is 5. 5 cubed, 125. Number 16, or excuse me, number 4 is 16 to the negative 1/2. So that is 1 over 16 to the 1/2. That's 1 over the square root of 16, which is 1/4. Yes?
You have to write the 1 over 16 after. Can you just give us like 1 and square root of 16?
You can go straight there. Yeah. Yeah, and that's a great question. You know, like in 1 and 2, personally, I don't have to write that first step out. I can look at it and tell the answer. So you don't have to write steps out if you can do them in your head. So number 5, I have 1 over 125 to the positive 2/3. So watch this. After I get, now I do usually like my negative exponent property, but then watch, the cube root of 125 is 5. 5 squared is 25. Just don't lose the 1, okay? Don't lose the fraction, so I can jump right there if you can handle that. All right, you have 6 exponent rules. Here's the first one. You would need to add the exponents. Well, 1/2 plus 1/3, they do not have a common denominator. So I'm going to need to build the common denominator. What is the common denominator, Grace? 6. So this is going to give me x to the 3/6 plus 2/6. So that's x to the 5/6. You do want to look at that fraction and see if you can reduce it. What I mean by reduce is if this had ended up being 3 over 6, I would make it 1/2. If it's 7 over 6, we do not ever write 1 and 1/6 as an exponent, okay? We would leave it as 7 over 6. But you should reduce exponents when possible. All right, number 7. We did one like this yesterday in the notes. We did it in the homework. 3 times 2 is 6. And then I'm taking x to the 1/3 times x to the 2/5. So that's just like problem 6. You're going to do 1/3 plus 2/5. So then what's my common denominator here? Elizabeth? 15. So I'm going to go 3 over 3, 5 over 5. So this is x to the 5/15 plus 6/15. So that's 6x to the 11/15. I can't reduce that, so that's it. Now, number 8. This is going to use the 5th exponent rule. If I have a to the m to the n, and we did do one like this in the notes. This is a to the m times n. So a power to a power is a product. So I'm going to take 8 and I'm going to make it 1/3 times -2. This isn't the only way to do it. I could do the cube root of 8 is 2, right? And then do 2 to the -2. That might actually be easier. Yeah, let's go that route. Do you see that? That's the cube root of 8, so that's 2. Yeah, let's do that. So what I want you to notice is I started one way and was like, yuck. And with exponent properties, there's more than one way to work them. And so if you start, so this is excellent. So if you start working one way and you say, man, that isn't making any sense to me, maybe stop and say, could I have gone a different route? Do you know how, like, to get to school, you could probably go 3 or 4 different ways? Yeah, some are longer than others, but you still end up at school, right? So we're still going to get the same answer. Now this is 1 over 2 squared, so that's 1/4. I still could have done it this first way, but it just was harder. Yeah. Yes.
Where did you get the 2?
8 to the 1/3 power means the cube root of 8, right?
Oh.
Yeah, and we know the cube root of 8. Yeah.
So if we just plugged like 2 to the second power in our calculator and got 1/4, do you want us to do the extra step? Like show it?
No, but your answer needs to be not 4, but 1/4.
No, 1/4.
Yeah, 1/4.
But we don't have to write on like our test or anything.
No. You do as much work as you need on these. Because some of us, we can do a lot in our heads, and that's fine. Yeah, Alyssa?
I don't really understand that. Like I got 4.
Okay, so when you got 4, what that tells me is you lost your negative exponent somewhere.
I did like 1 over the cube root of 8.
So you did 1 over the cube root of 8.
And then all by -2.
Okay, but when you made it 1 over, it's not a -2 anymore. Yeah, okay, then that was the error.
So is it just a positive?
It's a +2. Yeah, there you go. Because then you flipped it twice. Do you see that? Yeah, you ended up flipping twice. Okay, so 1 through 8, this was a review of what we did yesterday. Now we're going to continue on, and we're going to be using combinations of exponent properties. It's not just going to be one property. So, letter A. If I have x to the -2 to the 1/4, this is a power to a power. So that means we're going to multiply the exponents. So this is going to be -2 times 1/4. Then I will eventually work with that negative. Again, it's not the only way to do this, but if I multiply -2, that's -2 over 1. So that's -2/4. That's -1/2. So that's 1 over x to the 1/2. So a power to a power, I guess what I saw yesterday is some of you keep wanting to do the negative exponent first. You can do that, okay? You can. But then you're going to take 1 to the 1/4, which is 1, and then x squared to the 1/4 eventually gives you x to the 1/2. You're still going to get the same answer. All right, now, letter B. I'm going to use this property first that says if I have a product, okay, A times B, and that whole product is to an outside exponent, you take the A to the power and B to the power. So I'm going to take 25 to the 1/2. I'm going to take x squared to the 1/2 and y to the 12th to the 1/2. Now, 25 to the 1/2. I'm hoping we can start skipping some steps here. What is 25 to the 1/2? 5, right? It's the square root. Now, a power to a power is this property over here on the far left, okay? So that means I'm going to multiply. But I think we can do that multiplication in our heads. What's 2 times 1/2? 1, right? So you don't need to put the 1. It's not wrong if you put a 1, but it's assumed to be a 1. Now what's 12 times 1/2? 6. I'm done. 5x y to the 6th. Alright, so this ends up not being as bad as we thought. So here we go. 2x to the 1/3 cubed. So that's 2 to the 3rd, and then x to the 1/3 to the 3rd. So that's that property right here that I just used in letter B. I have to take the 2 to the 3rd and the x to the 1/3 to the 3rd. 2 cubed is 8, and what happens when you take 1/3 times 3? It's just 1. So you can put the 1 or not. Alright, let me pause, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a head start on me. And I want you to try D, E, and F. Do any of them or any part of any of them that you can. And then just wait for me. Be patient. And I'll go over it. If you're struggling to get started, let me help you in D. 36 to the 1/2, x to the negative 8 to the 1/2, y to the 4th to the 1/2. Okay, so you take each thing to that power. 36 to the 1/2 is 6. Then this is x to the negative 4, y squared. Now, what do you do with the negative exponent? Olivia?
That's on the bottom.
Awesome, okay? If your negative exponent is in the top, it drops down. So this is going to be 6y squared over x to the 4th. Okay, letter E. I'm taking 64 to the negative 2/3, m to the 12th to the negative 2/3, and n to the negative 3 to the negative 2/3. All right, you kind of want to maybe take your time with this. My 64 to the negative 2/3 can drop down right now. The other two, I need to figure out if it's going to end negative or end positive. So I'm going to go a little bit slower with my letters, with my variables. Okay, so 64 to the negative 2/3 can drop down. But if I multiply 12 over 1 times negative 2/3, isn't that m to the negative 8? Do you guys see where that's coming from? Maybe I can do that off this side. 12 over 1 times negative 2/3. 3 goes into 12 4 times. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Here, the 3's cancel, the negatives cancel, and that's n squared. It's positive. So that n isn't going to move. But watch what I'm going to do here. And watch this, guys. See if you can go with me. 64 to the 2/3. The cube root of 64 is 4. 4 squared, 16. So my final answer is n squared over 16 m to the 8th. What? The m goes down because there's a negative exponent. Yeah. Negative exponents move. All right, let's try the last one. It's going to be 125 to the negative 1/3, p cubed to the negative 1/3. Well, at 125 to the negative 1/3 can drop down. P to the 3rd to the negative 1/3, when I multiply, is going to give me p to the negative 1. So that's 1 over the cube root of 125 is 5, and the p drops down. So that is 1 over 5p. All right, I just recorded that. And I will